cul-de-sacs. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb in Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions about gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Call them anytime at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we are glad that you are with us each and every week, either it be Sunday or Saturday evening. And I did hear us the other Saturday evening, so we're there as well, 8 to 9 p.m., when we're not being bumped by the Gators on occasion.
Who wants to be bumped by those silly Gators?
Hey, well, there's a lot of Gator fans out there.
I say that. I jest.
I know.
So one thought I had, and again, this is James DeFreitas, and I wanted to, I want to mention something that I think is interesting in the real estate space, since that's one half of our show as we talk about real estate. And one of the things that I think is interesting is, and these are not, of course, not my words, but one of the CEOs of one of the large, companies out there was talking about a dire warning for commercial real estate. And what's interesting about that is, kind of what the, we saw over COVID. One of the things that happened during COVID was everybody worked from home. Okay, so we got into this pattern where people were consistently working from home. Well, then now the question has become, now that we're post-COVID, we assumed that commercial real estate would go back up, that there would be a need for people to go back into the office. And it turns out that that isn't exactly happening. So one of the things that this article goes on to is that, the title of this article is kind of interesting. And it says a dire warning for commercial real estate. And so one of the main concerns is that there's this massive debt that's coming due, okay? And that's mortgage debt. And most of the mortgage debt for commercial real estate is held by small and medium-sized banks. A lot of people don't know that. And what's interesting is a lot of that mortgage debt will come due for repayment by the end of 2025.
Okay.
Well, that's coming up pretty quick. And again, in the commercial real estate space, nothing happens quickly. It's that even when you're selling it, it takes longer.
Everything's slower.
Everything's slower. But the thing is it's kind of a, as this article alludes to, it's a double whammy, okay? And the fundamentals of commercial real estate are terrible, okay? And that's not my words. This is this gentleman who's much smarter than me, who was talking to CNBC. His name's Carroll, and I don't know him that well, but they're talking about the Silicon Valley Bank collapse in March. And it says experts have raised concern about the mega 1.5 trillion wall of debt looming for U.S. commercial properties. 1.5 trillion with a T.
It sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah. So again, that's mortgage debt, and there's a wall coming of where that needs to be paid. And the problem is, if no action is taken to delay or offset that amount, there's no way that can be paid. So we know that commercial real estate is going to collapse unless some drastic actions are taken, okay? Because you do not have people returning to work to the workspace like they did. They have learned, most people, this is one of the reasons why it was such a boom for the big box stores, is people would go out and they'd, let me do a complete office makeover, because now my home is my office and it has to be as nice as the office I was going into every day. So that's one of the reasons that they receive such a bump in that space. The issue is now that people have made an investment into their homes as being their home offices, what's the advantage to coming into work other than wasting gas if you can get it all done from your home?
Sure. And why not? Most people like to work from home.
Right. And it's more convenient. You can spend more time with your dogs or cats or whatever you're into. You can spend more time doing that. You can take breaks without anybody looking at you. So I get all of that.
But a lot of companies like to see faces.
Right. And that's sort of the issue is that, you're not seeing, so basically what you have is you don't have people coming back into the office. They're not, and then you have to think to yourself, if you're a commercial property owner, if the space isn't being occupied, then tenants are either going to downsize their space, look for smaller space if they still need to physically have a building, and they're going to try to make sure that it's and it's becoming rather passe. Now, I would imagine older people that are in the workforce probably did go back to the office as soon as they could.
A lot of people like the office too.
Right, and a lot of people like having that separation of church and state. They like making home and office. But that's not what's being replaced. I would say that the under 50 crowd is perfectly happy with doing work from home. And so that's a different change in pace and mindset.
So are you saying there's going to be a lot of defaults, you think? Could happen?
Well, this article is suggesting that the fundamentals are terrible. That all of the metrics that you measure a healthy system by are terrible for commercial space.
And that normally has kind of a correlation to residential eventually.
Maybe eventually, but now he says in the same breath that he doesn't see it in the single family market. In residential real estate, the fundamentals are strong.
Okay.
And Florida is a pretty insulated market. We still have tons of people coming in from the north.
Well, they don't like the cold and they don't like the taxation.
Right, exactly. Not that it's not that Florida is the panacea anymore. I mean, it's not as cheap as it once was. I mean, again, one of the things I was mentioning in the previous show that I didn't actually talk about per se was, the average sale price. The average sale price in March of 2022 in Florida, this is like a whole map of Florida, was $425,000 was the average sales price. And then in February of 2023, just 2 months ago, the average sale price was $433,000. So that's up a couple percentage points. So again, even though we have more inventory dumped on the market, which we do, almost twice as much inventory is on the market as it was the year before, what's happening is the homes are selling. The only difference is that it's taking them a lot longer to sell those homes, and they are getting at or a little above their asking price. Now, many are probably getting the asking price or a little less. So, but the stats are still good, and I guess my point of bringing that all up is the fundamentals are still good for the residential real estate market. So, and again, I don't want to get too bogged down in the numbers because I think we start losing people with that, but I do think you have to have a basis of fact to render your opinions on things. And again, you got to have an opinion. Well, anytime somebody's in the real estate market, people, come up to me and, well, hey, James, how's the market doing? They want to know. And then when I start giving them numbers, we start getting glazed looking eyes, and it's like, they didn't really want to know the numbers. And I'm like, okay, well, the best way to say it is the buyers in the market are being able to be a little choosier, and you're having, as a seller, you're having to be a little less choosy, and you're not going to see buyers bending over backwards anymore. And the other thing I was just mentioning too was that the commercial real estate, unless drastic actions are taken, it's headed towards a collapse. So
how are they going to stop that?
Well,
what has been proposed?
Well, and again, this article doesn't really talk about the curative properties of how to handle the commercial space, but they're just telling you that if nothing changes, this is what's going to happen, that the small and medium-sized banks who hold most of the debt for commercial space, that comes due in 2025, and they don't have it. So the problem that you have is something, we see a wall, we're running towards it. So we're going to either have to put in something that's less of a wall and more like a skimmer net for your pool. But if it's a wall, then it's going to be a hard crash. And I would think that somebody will get together and figure out a way to make this, I think they call it quantitative easing. They're going to want to ease the problem over time rather than have a harsh cutoff, because that harsh cutoffs are harsh.
Maybe they can extend the debts out further.
Well, and I think that's what's going to happen.
Redo the debt?
Yeah, because you really don't want that space. I mean, this guy goes as far to talk about this collapse as being as bad as 2008.
Oh, my.
So that's bad.
That was pretty severe.
Yeah, I mean, the title of the article, if you haven't looked at, just Google this. It's called A Dire Warning for Commercial Real Estate.
I think most folks in general right now, we're a little bit worried about the world in general. I mean, it looks like China is bristling a little bit. Russia certainly looks like we've got a Stalinite in Putin who wants to take over all of the old countries if possible. I was talking to a lady today, Linka, who was under a Soviet bloc country.
So she has firsthand knowledge of that life.
And she was telling me, she said, well, look, I got into nursing school because my dad was part of the party. She said, I wouldn't have. She said, my mother didn't, and she had a tougher time. She says she couldn't get the promotion because she wasn't part of the party.
Right.
Now, they weren't actually in Russia, but they were in a satellite country of the Soviet Union in the old days.
Which one?
I think she was in
Poland?
No, it was another one of the, I want to call it Czech, I think.
Czech Republic?
Czech Republic.
Okay.
And don't quote me 100% on that, but
And before World War II, it was called Czechoslovakia.
Czechoslovakia and that whole area, Hungary. I mean, there's a lot of, when you look at Russia now and what it was under the USSR was huge. And of course now
It's still huge.
It's still big, but a lot of these countries that have split away don't necessarily want to have to be. But in the old days, either you belonged to the party or you didn't. You didn't get the advancement.
Sure, yeah, and I'll tell you a quick story before we head off to break here. But when I traveled to Estonia was an ex-Soviet bloc country.
Sure.
They were so worried that when they separated from Russia in 1991, that they set these massive boulders in all the major streets to get into the capital of Tallinn, which is the capital for Estonia. And the idea was they were trying to prevent the tanks from being able to roll right on in. And so they kept a few of them around for nostalgia purposes. And it's pretty interesting to still see that they left them there to remind people of what they were so afraid of at one period in their history. And if you haven't had a chance to go visit Estonia, I highly recommend it. It's a very cool place.
You stay with us as the Plant Talk Real Estate and Geopolitical Talk continues here on AM 860, The Answer.
Want to talk real estate? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786, on the web at StaffordTreeSVC.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside, in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at AskMrGreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give him a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
Going back to plants just a second, at my other house, I had an orange tree. I had an orange tree at my house. But now when the greening came in, I switched to having a carambola. I put in an avocado and I put in some bananas because I like growing some of the stuff that I have in my yard and that I can eat.
The Rajipura.
The Rajipara. I just had my wife made some wonderful banana walnut bread recently.
I know, that was good too. Me and my wife fought over that.
Hey, it was a 2 out of 3 fall match.
She won.
She won. All right. But so it's important. I do like the idea of growing some things. You helped me build like a raised bed so I can still putter a little bit with gardening. My mobility is not as good as it once was. So I like things now that I don't have to worry about bending over as much if I do getting back up.
Mm-hmm.
I will also say I like my Tada cane, which makes into a chair. That has been helpful also. Give them a free plug.
We just need you to start using it more frequently, because I think you forget about it. So you grab the purple cane instead.
Well, the purple cane works pretty good too if you're just on a walk.
Right.
If I'm not going to sit, I actually prefer it. But if I'm going to have to sit somewhere, then I prefer the Tada cane, which actually makes into a chair.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, I work every day. I mean, I was one of those guys as a Ulster that was probably the most athletic guy I knew up till a number of years ago. And I won't go into that right now because there's no real point in that.
No, I wouldn't.
But I will say I do still try to putter a little bit in the garden. And I have got some lettuce growing right now, some tomatoes, some broccoli, and some cabbage. And partly because I enjoy doing it. And I also enjoy when you go to the store and I go, that's $2, that's $3 a pound, that's $4, that's $5, that's 2 for $5. And I go, I can grow some of those. And so it makes me feel just a tad little bit independent. And, you know, every time I go to the grocery store, I'm amazed. And I like Publix. I go to Publix and I see there's two checkout people. Mm-hmm. Like I said, look, if I wanted to go to Walmart and play, you know, road rage with my cart, I'd go there. I'm here because there's some conveniences. I like it when I'm not sure which aisle it's on, and your stocker goes over and finds the product and brings it back to me.
Sure.
Which they'll do.
Well, and just to clarify too, with Walmart, if you notice the carts are about 20% larger than a Publix cart. Mm. If you hadn't picked up on that, I did. I looked at it.
Usually the wheels don't work as well either.
Well, and for fun, what I did is I took a tape measure and I measured. I'm the only one that would ever do this.
Yes, that
but
is
different. I measured the cart at Publix, and then I measured the cart at Walmart, and I said, sure enough, 20% larger. So their thought process is if they can put more in the cart, they'll buy more. I don't know if that's working for them, but I will say what does happen is something that you just alluded to, which is that when you're in Walmart, it does feel a little like bumper cars. You know, if you're at Busch Gardens, it's you banga banga.
Yeah.
You feel like you are, you know, and again, we're not denigrating anybody who shops at either of these locations.
And I've shopped at both. So
right. So, and we're not denigrating the stores themselves. You know, there are some systemic issues to both of these kinds of establishments, and then there are some benefits to both of them as well. So, again, I say nothing. You know, we're not advocating that either one of them are bad. You know, it's just, you know, you shop where you shop, and often people shop where it's closer and where they think it's cheaper. So,
yeah, if some place is closer and it's a better price, some people like Aldi, some people like Winn-Dixie, whatever it may be, and that's fine. A lot of times you're right. Which store is
closer?
Is a mile from me.
Right, and if it's a mile away, it's going to be a hard sell to say, let me drive 10 more miles out of the way so I can go
say 50 cents,
so I can save a nickel.
Yeah.
So it's a little different in that regard. I do have another thing I was going to mention too that is it's kind of you know, more in your wheelhouse in terms of you know, gardening. Now, I don't know when Earth Day is, but it says this is
I think it's already occurred now.
Probably already has occurred. But one of the things that's interesting is this is Miami-Dade Board of County Commissioners approved a resolution to work with Miami-Dade County Public Schools. And one of their goals is to try to achieve a tree canopy in the county of 30%.
Right.
And so I think this is kind of cool. So what they're doing is they're doing a lot of tree acquisitions in Miami-Dade County.
Right.
You know, and they're buying hundreds of thousands of dollars of trees to try to get to this magic number of 30% because they see the value in the idea of, you know, if you can provide more shade over more structures, then it's going to be, that is in and of itself an energy reduction.
It's going to be cooler.
It's going to be cooler.
Sure.
So, I really like that somebody's thinking about this, because I don't think enough county commissioners in enough counties are thinking about how to achieve more tree canopy. And again, what we hear a lot of is, hurricanes blowing in and trees being uprooted and stuff like that. And yes, that is a problem. So again, Stan and I are not going to suggest to you that once you plant the tree that you just get to forget about the tree.
No.
What I would suggest is when you plant the tree is take it another step further and then have an arborist. And yes, you're going to need to pay an arborist to come out and maybe do a risk assessment of all of the trees that you've planted, and don't just assume that trees are going to take care of themselves and that you don't have to think about it, because we can quote several cases, one of which you've been involved in, where somebody was injured as a result of negligence to a tree I think it was in a park.
Yeah, somebody actually was killed by a tree that fell, and then becomes, did you know that the tree was a problem?
And why didn't you know?
And why didn't you know? And if you were told, why didn't you take action?
Right, because then it becomes gross negligence.
The same thing I could say here to this. There's a tree out here in the mighty 860 parking lot that is probably by the road that's dangerous because it needs to be injected.
Right.
But I understand, we don't want to spend
Budgets are finite, that's for sure.
The problem you have is once you know and you don't do anything and that tree falls and hurts somebody,
it's a
then
problem.
You are responsible.
Right, and then you also lose plausible deniability as well.
But at that point, do realize you should pay a good gardening show. It's very important for your station. And when you take this over, you make sure you keep Mr. Greenthumb and his son on and pay them whatever they ask.
They might be taking us off the air for constantly berating them about not doing the treatment. But we understand. I mean, we're going through a constant flux in the economy, and every business is kind of tweaking and fine tuning what they feel they need to spend. So I get it. So I mean,
like you're talking about the millions that are going to be due to the banks.
Yeah.
Somebody out there is probably going, I've got 2 years. How do I refinance this? Or people are worried about their insurance. In Florida, a lot of companies have dropped people.
Right. Well, I mean, again, now the other flip side of it is on this commercial real estate impending doom is, again, if you're an investor and you can hold off, you're going to make a lot of money if you can pick up these commercial spaces on the cheap, because it will be on the cheap when they go bust. So
that's true.
So again, one person's misfortune is somebody else's good fortune. So
I see a lot of these malls and stuff now have kind of gone by the wayside. I actually liked malls in the old days.
Yeah.
But today they're cutting them up and making something else out of them.
Outdoor malls has become the thing. I guess air conditioning spaces was just not doing it for people in Florida. With that noise, we're going to go take a break here, and we're going to pay some bills, and I'll let you take it away.
You stay with us as the Plant Talk and Real Estate Talk and Geopolitical Talk continues here on AM 860, The Answer.
Want to talk real estate? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online, aflre.com. Open air conditioner? Keep your home's AC running smoothly all year long with Easy Breezy AC. With thousands of active commercial and residential customers, Easy Breezy AC is Tampa Bay's most trusted HVAC company. Easy Breezy AC cares about those in need. Donate 2 cans of food and receive $20 off a $79 service call. Go to easybreezyac.com and use promo code GREENTHUMB for an additional $10 off your service call. Call 727-856-HVAC. Life's hard. Comfort's not. Did you know that Stan DeFreitas, Mr. Greenthumb, can come to your house and examine your plants, trees, and palms? His knowledge can help you become the envy of your neighborhood with lush, green, healthy trees that don't just live, but thrive. Palms and oak trees are part of what makes Florida a beautiful place to live, but they get diseases and are often cut down. We offer ways to save your trees. Call or text Stan today at 727-423-4794 or go online to AskMrGreenthumb.com. That's AskMR Greenthumb.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we would say, I think trees are important for people. You know, I used to have a little sticker on the back of my bumper that said, "Don't wheeze, plant trees." Now, I do know trees.
Oh, I didn't know where that came from.
Yeah, it's the idea of keeping trees alive.
But I think a lot of the reason people wheeze is they did plant trees.
Well, there is trade-off for everything. You know, pollen and stuff can cause problems for a lot of people. But, you know, as you said, greening and space and oxygen and all that good stuff.
Yeah, actually, I had a neighbor who, she's from Venezuela. And something interesting there is that, you know, she actually, when we had the bad pollen dropping really bad this season, she got on a plane and went back to Venezuela and told her husband, she said she'd be back in 45 days when she thought maybe it'd be less. Yeah, so it's one of those scenarios where, you know, she literally said, "I'm out of here. I can't handle the amount of pollen that drops." By the way, it does this every year. And, you know, sometimes it's a month or two, and then it's not as bad. But, you know, it'll keep on doing what it's doing. Just, you know, when we see the yellow stacking up on the car, that's pollen. Trees are going to do their business. And thank God they do, because if they didn't, we probably wouldn't be here. So
well, I think it's ironic that I'm a certified arborist that never carries a chainsaw, and yet I'm allergic to pollen. Oak pollen in particular bothers me. And what was the tree that we're always counting?
We're always counting
oaks
of some sort.
I say now I often pay James to do it, and I'm doing my part of it from the car, where I can sit and say, "Hey, yes, it's this variety or that variety."
Right.
You're still learning your varieties, but you know pretty much what we're doing, and you're becoming more and more of a
I'm
arborist.
learning. It's like you said. It would be easier to become a doctor or a lawyer than to know all of the different species of plants. And of course, Dad here knows the Latin name before he knows the common name. And
for a lot of them.
Well, you shocked me at how much you can pull out of that brain of yours. You'll Corcus virginiana, and you'll throw out all these names, and I'll go, "Oh yeah, it's live oak," or you'll name the names, and I'm going, "I have no idea what that is."
I used to make my students. I taught horticulture for about 10 years at a technical college, and also some homeowners classes at junior college when there was a junior college.
Well, I'll put you on the spot. Like for a queen palm, what would be the Latin name for a queen palm?
Well, the name has changed sometimes. It used to be Cocos plumosa was one of the original names on it.
Yeah, I think there was like a Regina saffra, something with an S.
It's been changed, and then they called it the Roman Zophianum.
That's it.
It was a Russian name that they put on it because Russian explorer first found it, I think, down in Brazil.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then it's been changed again.
It's been changed again. Well, I have another interesting story that I was going to talk a little bit about in terms of real estate for Pinellas County. And then we'll go back to gardening, of course. But I always like to throw in a little bit of real estate, a little bit of gardening, because that is the makeup of our show, which is rather unique. And people always say, I don't understand this gardening and real estate. What do we just pick one or the other? No. You don't care about your garden until you own some real estate. And that's how it goes together. It's not, people want to make it as odd as, let's say, baking and bicycle chain maintenance. It's not the same oddness.
They're both bees.
Yeah, there you go. They're both bees. But anyway, so here's something that's interesting, and I always like to and this is in Pinellas County, so this is very near and dear because it's, anybody listening to this is you're not far from Pinellas County, even though we may be broadcasting out, in a lot of Hillsborough. But one of the things that's cool is they're creating, and this is I'm quoting it from an article named Deanne Lawrence White, and she wrote about this article, and this is happening in Seminole, Florida. So this is, I guess, right off of Lake Seminole. It's just going to be a beautiful subdivision that they're creating. But unlike most subdivisions, this one is being created with the idea of catering to, service people, the idea of being a veteran. So what's cool about it is it's a new community that will offer 58 one-bedroom and 6 two-bedroom apartments in 1- or 2-story variants. And it's going to have little Key West bungalow style, okay?
Sounds fun.
Yeah, and so part of the conditions in being able to buy one of these is, A, you have to be a veteran, to buy it. And then you also have to qualify that you don't make any more than $34,500 annually. So in other words, it's going to be for lower income people that served our country. So I think this is a really cool idea where because if you've taken a look around in Pinellas County, buying a house ain't cheap. I mean,
No.
I don't care if you're trying to do it on the cheap, it still is expensive.
It's hard to get into for a lot of folks. Yeah.
Almost impossible. So I would like to encourage more of these kinds of things too, especially for people that literally put their backs on the line for our freedoms.
I'd vote for you.
Yeah.
And I'd vote for that idea. I think that's a great idea. That's wonderful. Yeah, somebody asked me the other day, well, how come there aren't rent restrictions? And I said, well, I can understand that, and I empathize with that. But also I empathize with the person that goes out there when their insurance is doubled or tripled.
Well, we have a runaway problem with insurance.
With everything costing more, when they go to replace stuff and redo their condo or the apartment or the house, and they go to Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever and they buy stuff, and it costs them 3 times more than it did a few years ago, I said, that's one reason they can't say, well, let's put a lid on the price that we had 15 years ago, because the person who's investing in that property also has to make a profit.
Right.
At least.
And what about the landlords that were investors that couldn't evict tenants during COVID?
Yeah,
what happened to them?
A lot of people took advantage of that situation too.
Yeah, and I had some friends in the real estate business that had, one of the friends in particular had an apartment complex, and the big misnomer I think that people have out there with regards to is, oh, he's the big rich landlord.
Right.
What you don't understand is that he had a $600,000 mortgage on the property, and he didn't own it free and clear, and he was buying it on the contingency that a bank was, basically the bank owns it, and he's renting it from the bank until he pays for it, okay?
And if he doesn't pay for it, it goes back to the bank.
Right. So when you lived there for free during COVID, when there was a eviction moratorium preventing the landlord from booting you, it wasn't like the landlord didn't still have to make his payments even though you weren't paying.
Right.
Okay. So, and again, I'm not attacking people. If you were COVID, you had your situation. I get it. Sometimes life that's one of the reasons why when I see somebody in their 80s or even 70s, I be kind, because life's hard. And the very fact that people make it to old age, you should have a little bit of respect just from that point of view, because if you've lived your life and you're in your 20s and 30s and you think life's rough, remember, life has a way of slapping you upside the head just as soon as you think you've got it figured out.
Kind of reminds me of our sponsor. Life's hard, cool's easy.
That's
Remember,
right.
Easy Breezy.
That's right. Easy Breezy. Yeah. And if you do have, that's a good point. We should mention Easy Breezy AC. If you have any air conditioning needs, we know that you will, as we're coming into what will be probably a record-setting heat wave coming this summer. We recommend you go ahead and check out Easy Breezy AC now, and make sure that when you call Michael or Lynn Thomas over there at Easy Breezy, that you tell them that Stan and James DeFreitas sent you.
And you'll get a discount too.
That's right.
So mention our names, not just
A big discount. Promo code Ask Mr. Greenthumb.
I was in the hospital the other day, and I was going through admitting thing, and the guy goes, he says, we have a big celebrity in the house here with Mr. Greenthumb. And I thought, well, isn't that nice that a few people remember me from my 12 years on PBS and 2 on CBS, and doing a lot of stuff with old Jocular Jack on 13 and 8.
Sure.
The old days, old Pulse Plus.
Yeah, it's a shame too with Jack, because I don't want to speak bad about a competing radio station, but the way that was handled was appalling.
And I think everybody agrees. Well, I think he'll get his due in recognition someday.
I hope so.
By
because
other folks.
What people don't seem to understand is that the guy is a living legend, and everybody in this area, and probably outside of this area, loves Jack Harris. Everybody loves him. Including the DeFreitas boys right here. We think he's an amazing talent, and I think he should have been allowed to continue his show as long as he wanted to do it.
Well, kind of like everybody loves Raymond, everybody loved Jack.
That's right.
So, but that's, we'll say, I don't think his career's not totally through, and hopefully he will rise like the Phoenix again. I'm sure he will, because I always thought Jack was great about kissing babies and little old ladies. He was great at doing
Well,
promotions.
any station that he wanted to work at, I'm sure he could work there if he wants, because anybody would love to have him.
Earth Day was the 22nd. We're already past it now by this time of this recording.
Well, hey, you know what? We brought it again. We brought up Earth Day is such a big day that we can talk about it again, even a month down after it's passed.
Past April 22nd. Yeah. By the way, that day I gave a talk at the Oldsmar Library.
Oh, that's right, you did.
On Earth Day on gardening.
Yeah.
And I do those from time to time.
That's why you remembered.
I will talk to groups, and I enjoy that. Hopefully some of the home shows we'll get back to doing when they kind of took a hiatus there for a while, too. Nobody wanted to go to the home shows because nobody could go out officially and, rub elbows with people anymore. Mm-hmm. And
how did you pronounce that word?
Rub elbows with people?
No, before that. You said hiatus.
Hiatus.
Yeah, it sounded like you were saying hyenas, but that's fine.
No, it wasn't hyenas.
Okay.
But that's an animal.
Yeah.
Hiatus.
Okay. I'm just messing with you.
In other words, taking a break from that. But
I do want to mention real quick, in case people are writing it down, is that if you are interested in getting your AC tuned up, or if you need a new system, you can certainly call Easy Breezy at 727-856-4822. That's 727-856-4822. And make sure you tell them that James and Stan DeFreitas sent you right here from the Ask Mr. Greenthumb show if you need said system. I assure you they do excellent work, and they're more affordable than about 90% of the people that I've seen out in the market, which is saying something, because air conditioning units have not gotten cheaper over the years. They've gotten ridiculously more expensive.
I always check out, too, and our sponsors like Easy Breezy or Plants, Plantz, who does the plant rental business, and you can buy plants for sending them up north. Plants, Plantz, or, of course, we have our Stafford Tree Service as one of our other sponsors. I'm actually looking for one more sponsor now out there. If somebody, I want to check your company out.
Right, and test your product.
I will not endorse something that is junk, because I had people before in the old days go, yeah, I want you to endorse this thing. And I'd look at it and I'd go, nope, I'm not going to endorse it because I can't believe in it.
You got to believe in it, or otherwise we're just selling, smoke and mirrors. If you are interested in the plant rental business, we certainly encourage you to go to plants at plantz.us. If you're interested in buying a plant, you can go to plantz.com. And you can certainly get a plant, and you can send that up to your mother, father, sister-in-law, cousin, aunt, uncle, whatever, maybe a good friend that lives across the country, and they will ship that thing to them. And they have I believe Steve has hooked up with some kind of wizardry kind of thing, and he's got potions and stuff all together so that he can make that plant survive that journey.
And it will. And it's a good quality plant, and nothing says I care about you with your biophilia other than plants. So we always recommend them for folks, too, when you want to send that special gift to Aunt Martha or Uncle Bill. Stay with us as the plant talk and real estate talk and geopolitical talk continues here on AM 860, The Answer.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786. On the web at StaffordTreeSVC.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plantz, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give him a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're here to help you with your plants, your trees, your shrubs, and with Dream at Real Estate, which James is the owner of. I am his guy who goes out and sits and does the open houses on occasion. At least I can take
My head real estate agent.
Yeah, I'm number one.
Number one. Yeah.
And we are there.
My only one, but you're my one.
Well, it's good to be number one.
Well, and I might mention, too, since you brought it up, too, if you go to Dream at Real Estate, you can go to dreamatrealestate.co, and you can learn a little bit more about what I do and what Stan does, working with the company here. And let's say you're looking for a career change, and you might be. Again, the fundamentals in the residential market are good. Now, I don't think the fundamentals are very good in commercial real estate, as we've expanded upon the last couple of episodes here, and or in the previous break set even. So the fundamentals in commercial real estate, shaky, but in the traditional real estate residential market, they look pretty good. And if you're interested in making that career change, you can certainly give me a call, and I can put you on a path. And I do a really good job. And for those that are interested in making a commitment to my brokerage, then one of the things that I will do is I will pay for your real estate school. And again, it's one of those things where I encourage you to shop around and see how many companies are going to want to pay for your life change. They're not going to. I can tell you straight up, they don't do it. They won't do it. And it's one of the reasons that...
No one did that for me.
Right. Well, it's one of those things where, hey, at the end of the day, small boutique brokerages have to separate themselves from the rest of the pack.
But you got to be sincere.
Yeah, you got to be for real about it. You got to make sure that you want it. And again, one of the things I would say about real estate, and again, I don't want to make people depressed about the thought, but I also do want to be honest about it. There's a very low entry bar into real estate and a very high bar to be successful in it. So, as long as you go into it with that in mind, I think you're okay. I think when people they go all in, and they're expecting to make all of their money out of real estate their first year, they get very discouraged. So I encourage you, keep that part-time job, make sure that you still have some income coming in a different way as you're building up your database and building up your sphere of influence.
That was going to be my question to you. If somebody, let's say they're a teacher right now, and they want to join the Dream at Real Estate banner.
Oh, that's a good name too, Dream at Real Estate.
Yeah, well, I'll get the word right. Dream at Real Estate with you. They could call you at 727-254-7127, right?
727-254-7127, or you can go to the website at dreamatrealestate.co.
So I think I just heard you say you're going to pay, now not maybe up front, but maybe pay for it.
Well, yeah, one of the things that I'll do is, again, everybody has a different situation, okay?
Right.
But what I'll do is once we have that conversation with each other, we have to have a conversation, and we have to have what I call a meeting of the minds so that I can understand where you're coming from. One of the things that we typically will do is, again, I will have you go ahead and pay for your class, and what I'll do is I'll reimburse you as a credit on your first transaction. So that's how I'll go ahead and pay you.
So that means
your
you're
school.
serious, because sometimes if you don't actually have to put a little bit of skin in the game up front,
then you don't take it seriously.
Maybe you're not going to study and do all the things you need to do to pass.
Correct. But I will say the one of the things that I think is ironic in the big box real estate companies is they have all of this money. They make probably 99% of the money that's made in real estate, and they charge the most for people who are making almost nothing. Okay? Because when you first start your real estate career, you're going, good Lord, I didn't think I was going to be spending thousands of dollars and making no money. And it's like the time that you needed the help was the time in the beginning, not the time that was... in terms of, later on. Once you're making money in the real estate space, then, you don't really need the help anymore. And that's when they typically give you the help, which I find ironic.
Well, yeah, it's the American way. It's like
Right.
when you really need to and you're struggling, everything seems to be against you.
Right.
Once you get to a point of success, then you'll have your office at the building and they'll encourage you. But today, you don't really need to have that walled building anymore. You can pretty much do real estate from anywhere.
Sure.
But I'm always worried about young agents. It kind of reminds me when you're just graduating from college. I'm going to do this, and this. And maybe you are, but you also have to have a drive to get there. And in real estate, you can go, well, if I make $1 million sale, I'm going to get this.
Right.
Unfortunately, usually, unless you're just super well connected, you're not getting that $5 million home.
Not going to happen.
You're getting that $140,000 condo.
And by the way, that brings up a very good point. So I'm glad you said that. And it's be okay with what you get, and don't always be upset that you didn't get that big. And by the way, it's a lot easier to sell a property, a lower valued property, than it is a property that is in the millions. And again, anybody who's been in the luxury real estate market knows. And it's kind of funny too. I mean, you can even have luxury in the name of your business and then still sell mainly mobile homes and stuff, which I think is kind of funny. And I won't bash anybody's company that may have luxury in their title, but I will say, just because you name a company something doesn't mean that's what you're going to be listing. You could be, and again, there's nothing wrong with selling a mobile home either, by the way. I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of it. Now, I will say if it's a true mobile home, you're going to have a license for that. There's a separate license for that. Now, if it's a mobile home where you own the land on it, then that's a different story in and of itself. So, but one of the things that I want to do is I'd like to help people who need the help, not people who are established in the business. I mean, that makes almost no sense to me that we do it so backwards. And I think the credit bureaus do this the exact same way too. They give you almost nothing in the beginning. For people that are trying to reestablish their credit, I know I'm getting off a thought here, but when people are trying to reestablish their credit, they will make you put $500 into an account in order to establish credit. Okay, for people that have maybe made some or had some ill luck in their life. And I still encourage people to do that. The moment you can start to change your credit history for the better, you should start, because it'll take years to correct it if you've made mistakes. Something they don't teach in American high schools. They don't have a class where they teach you about how to be responsible with credit. Instead, what happens is you'll be 50 years old and go, why do I have 37 credit cards and $400,000 in debt? I mean, it's probably because we didn't sit down and have this conversation about being responsible and living within your means. And part of that has to do with the fact that everybody wants this new iPhone and they got to have the new toys. And here's the thing. I'm okay with you getting the toys, but only when you can afford it.
Sure.
If you have to buy it always on credit, then you shouldn't have it.
Well, that's the reason I'm going to tell you, go out there and plant that basil, plant some of those plants, get in touch with Mother Nature. It's wonderful, it's enjoyable, and it's relaxing. For me, I can go out there in kind of a Zen state, and I just go, look at the little rosemary. Well, I'll cut a piece off for when I'm going to have some fish tonight or something, or I'm going to grow some basil. I eat basil and some rosemary almost every day, partly because I grow it, partly because I like to keep it in bounds, and partly because I think it's good for you.
Sure. And how about, making sure that you take a look at your trees? If you see running sap, you see bark that is sloughing off of your tree, I'll get it out there, or I'll bark at you.
Easy for you to say.
I'll bark at you about your bark.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you do see bark that's coming off of your tree, or if you see running sap, or you see little BB holes, it's pretty evident that you have a wood-boring beetle eating your tree. Seeing this, a lot of trees in Pinellas and Hillsborough County, seeing this, it got to be happening in other counties too.
Most of the laurels, most of the waters, and even some of the live.
Right. And we're even, and we looked at one yesterday, matter of fact, at a client. It was a magnolia tree. And it was kind of a poor cut on the tree, but it's got little BB holes in it. I guarantee you that client would like to know about that as well. So there's a good little reminder for you there. And, one of the things I'll do is when we're out there looking, I'll take a picture of it, something you probably don't have time to even notice, but it's something that Stan and I are looking at, So when we're in touch with looking at these things. And tell people about how to get, the consultation thing.
Send me a picture of the tree. I like that. I mean, I'm willing to go out and look at your tree, but obviously...
Where do I send that picture to?
You can give me a call if you want. So you can text it to me, 727-423-4794. That's 727-423-4794. Or you can go to Stan Mr. Greenthumb at Gmail. You can send me a picture that way, or you can go through the website.
They can do it that way. You got them covered any which way. And again, one of the things I would like to mention is that, again, if you think that taking care of your tree is expensive, I assure you cutting it down is far more expensive than taking care of it.
Somebody called me recently and they said they had a quote. Now, they were going to bring a crane in, and it wasn't one of the companies I work with, which is, our own in-house Stafford Tree Service. We're part of them, but they're one of our sponsors.
Right.
Or sometimes we work with Utsi down in South St. Pete.
He's great too.
They're great too. But this person was another service, and they wanted to charge them $21,000 to bring a crane in, and I assume it's a huge tree. But she says, you can inject my tree and save it, and save me like $21,000. I said, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And with that note, that means that we are at the end of our show, but we do appreciate all the people out there that took the time to listen to us. And of course, the eclectic Bill Handelman is coming up next.
Stay with us, always.
Want to talk real estate? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com.